Privileged to stand with you in solidarity with those in Eritrea who are suffering so grievously for their faith. As you're almost certainly aware, along with many others, hundreds of Christians are currently held without trial for practicing their faith in Eritrea. During parliamentary proceedings which I chaired on behalf of the all-party parliamentary group on Eritrea, we heard shocking accounts of persecution and suffering. Such grievous suffering is thrown into sharp relief when measured against the privileges and freedoms which we in the United Kingdom so readily take for granted. In Eritrea, by contrast, many are being held in facilities as rudimentary as shipping containers, underground cells, and even in the desert where they experience torture, where they're deprived of adequate food, potable water, and access to medical attention. All this makes a mockery of Article 18 of the 1948 Declaration on Human Rights. That universal declaration spells out the right of people to believe, not to believe, or to change their belief. In Eritrea, the declaration is only honoured in its breach. Recently, the United Nations Human Rights Council received a highly critical report from the current United Nations Special Rapporteur on Eritrea, in which she concludes that in key areas, including the rule of law, reform of the national service, progress on civil liberties, and progress on women's rights, there has been what she said was no concrete evidence of progress. Instead, she points to the continued arrest of businessmen, religious, and community leaders. Political prisoners remain in jail, some for as long as 26 years without trial. Now, despite the repeated calls of the United Nations urging the Eritrean authorities to grant the Special Rapporteur cooperation and access to the country, that call has fallen on deaf ears. The Special Rapporteur's analysis is reinforced by the work of many human rights groups, such as CSW, Amnesty, and Human Rights Watch, who have said that despite the recent rapprochement with Ethiopia, there has been, their words, no peace dividend for Eritreans. Now, despite some attempt at engagement with the government of Eritrea, in reality, there has been little movement on fundamental issues, and I remain especially concerned about the well-being of Eritrean refugees, people who have escaped from Eritrea, who are in refugee camps in Tigray and are facing involuntary dispersal and repatriation with potentially catastrophic consequences. It's an issue which I recently raised with the United Kingdom government. It's yet another negative development masked and hidden by the cloak of COVID-19 at a moment when the world is looking away and only focused on the pandemic. The coronavirus has also meant that we are unable to gather today as planned in front of the Eritrean diplomatic mission to commemorate the forced closure of churches in May 2002 and to protest against continued religious repression. But I hope that your actions, our actions online today instead will have an even greater impact and will serve as a testament that our brothers and our sisters who are languishing in captivity are neither forgotten nor abandoned. Now is a moment to combine political pressure and prayer, knowing, as the great poet Tennyson said in Victorian times, that more things are wrought by prayer than this world ever dreams of. And as the psalmist reminds us in Psalm 37, that God does not forsake his faithful ones, but nor must we. We mustn't forsake Eritrea, we mustn't forget Eritrea. Our duty is to work for justice, a just future for a suffering and persecuted people, a just future for Eritrea, a benighted country caught in the crosshairs of tyrannical ideology, injustice, and an indifferent world. So pray as if the entire outcome depends upon God, and work as if the entire outcome depends upon you.